the empty wallet, and the kind stranger. The wind was sharp that morning, cold and bitter like life had been lately. Mia held her coat tight around her thin frame, her other hand gripping a small hand. Her youngest daughter, Lily, only 4 years old. Her other daughter, Zoe, walked close behind, quiet and hungry. They hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. Not because Mia didn't try. She had tried everything. Selling old clothes, cleaning houses, even asking strangers for small jobs. But the world wasn't kind to a mother with tired eyes and holes in her shoes. They reached the bakery on Elm Street, a place Mia used to go when things were better. It smelled of warm bread and sugar, and for a second, she let her daughters stand near the window. Lily pressed her small hands on the glass, eyes wide. "Mommy, it smells so good," she whispered. Mia reached into her pocket and pulled out her wallet. There were a few coins, not even enough for one piece of bread. Her throat tightened. She looked at the kind old man inside the bakery, hoping maybe he would offer something. A small bun, a broken cookie, anything. But the moment he saw her count her coins, he turned away. Zoe looked up. "It's okay, Mommy. We'll eat later." But Mia knew there was no later, not unless something changed. She took a deep breath and turned to walk away. She didn't want her daughters to see her cry. "Stop." The voice was soft, but strong. She froze. Slowly, she turned, standing. Behind them was a man dressed simply in jeans, a dark hoodie, and worn shoes. His hair was slightly messy, and he wore a kind smile. He held out a paper bag. "Take this," he said gently. "It's still warm." Mia hesitated. She didn't want to take charity, especially from strangers. But her girls were hungry. The man crouched down to Lily's level and opened the bag, just enough to let the smell of fresh bread escape. "Go on," he said, looking up at Mia. "Please, it's just bread, and I got too much." Mia nodded slowly. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. She didn't know who he was. She didn't care. At that moment, he was just kind. They sat on a nearby bench. Lily and Zoe ate with smiles. Mia watched them with tears in her eyes. The man stood nearby, quiet. When the girls finished, he handed them each a bottle of juice. "I saw you yesterday," he said softly. "You gave your coat to an old woman at the station, even when you had nothing." Mia blinked, surprised. "You saw that?" He nodded. Kindness like that shouldn't go unnoticed. She looked at him closer. Something about him felt familiar. Not just his face, but the way he looked at people, like he truly saw them. Not just their clothes or hair or if they had money. He saw their heart. "What's your name?" she asked. "Keanu," he replied with a small smile. Mia's heart skipped. "Keanu Reeves," he nodded, but almost shyly. "I don't like making a scene. Just wanted to help." Mia sat there, stunned. The Keanu Reeves, the famous actor, the man who starred in so many movies, here on a cold street corner, sharing bread. "Why would someone like you help someone like me?" she asked, tears now flowing freely. Keanu looked down at his hands. "Because years ago, someone helped me when I was lost, and because no one deserves to be forgotten just because they're struggling." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "If you ever need anything, call this number. It's someone I trust. She can help with jobs, food, shelter, no pressure. Just if you need it." Mia took the paper with shaking hands. Her daughters leaned against her, full and warm for the first time in days. She didn't know what to say. "Thank you," she whispered again. "I won't forget this." Keanu stood up. "I hope you never have to. But if you do, that's okay." He turned and walked away before she could say more. But that moment changed everything. And what came next was something no one could have predicted. The woman with the silver bracelet. At night, Mia sat on the floor beside her daughters as they slept peacefully under borrowed blankets. She held the folded paper Keanu had given her, her fingers traced over the number, hesitant. She had always been proud, always tried to figure things out on her own. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, she felt something soft bloom in her chest. Hope. She picked up the old phone she had kept turned off to save battery. With trembling hands, she dialed the number. It rang once. Then again, a soft voice answered. "Hello?" Mia's throat tightened. Hi, my name is Mia. Keanu gave me your number. He said you might be able to help. There was a pause, then a warm laugh. If Keanu gave you this number, then you've already helped yourself more than you know. I'm Claire. Mia couldn't believe how gentle her voice was. Claire asked simple questions, not the kind that made Mia feel judged, but the kind that made her feel safe. By morning, Claire had arranged a meeting at a nearby shelter, not just a place to sleep, but one that helped mothers like Mia find work, childcare, and counseling. Claire even sent a ride to pick them up. As the car pulled up to the shelter, Mia held her daughter's hands tightly. The building looked clean, fresh paint on the door, a small garden outside. A woman stood waiting. She wore a silver bracelet that sparkled in the sun, and her eyes were kind. You must be Mia, she said, extending her hand. I'm Helen, welcome. Double quotes inside. Everything smelled of lavender and fresh soap. Zoe and Lily were taken to a playroom filled with toys and crayons. For the first time, Mia saw them smile without worry. Helen led Mia into a quiet room and handed her a cup of tea. We'll start with the basics, she said. Food, clothes, a safe place to sleep. Then we'll talk about long-term plans. Sound good? Mia nodded. She couldn't believe this was real. Later that afternoon, while the girls napped and Mia was filling out some papers, a knock came at the door. Someone's here to see you, Helen said. Mia's heart skipped. When she stepped into the hallway, she saw Keanu standing there, holding two bags. He looked different in the daylight, less like a movie star and more like someone she'd known her whole life. Thought you might need a few things, he said, handing over the bags. Inside were jackets, warm socks, school supplies for the girls, and a second-hand tablet. Mia covered her mouth with her hand. You didn't have to, I know, he said simply, but I wanted to. He sat with her for a while. He really listened as she shared her story. How her husband left without a word. How the rent piled up. How no one believed in her anymore. Not even herself. Keanu said nothing for a long time. Then he looked at her and said, You're stronger than you know, and I don't say that lightly. He left soon after, quietly as before. No cameras, no spotlight. Just a man trying to help. But what Mia didn't know was that someone had seen him. A young girl from the shelter had posted a blurry photo online of him walking out the front door, with the caption, Keanu Reeves just dropped off food at our shelter. Is this real life? By nightfall, the image had gone viral. And Mia's world was about to change again, in ways she never saw coming. Headlines and heartbreak. The next morning, Mia woke to the sound of her daughters laughing. It was the kind of laughter that filled the walls with light. She sat up slowly, still not used to waking on a soft mattress with warm covers. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel cold. She didn't feel afraid. But then Claire came in, holding her phone with wide eyes. She sat beside Mia and said, You might want to see this. On the screen was a headline, Keanu Reeves spotted helping homeless mother of two. Who is she? Below it was the blurry photo from the shelter. There was a growing list of comments. He's an angel in human form. Who's the woman? Her kids are adorable. If she's struggling, someone set up a GoFundMe. Mia's stomach tightened. Her private pain had become public. She didn't know whether to be grateful or scared. But before she could decide, the shelter's front desk called. A reporter was outside. And another. Claire acted quickly. She stepped in like a protective older sister. You don't have to talk to anyone. We'll handle this. But the world had already caught fire with the story. Not because Mia was famous. Not even because Keanu was. But because, as one post said, we need stories like this. Not just about stars, but about people who keep going even when the world breaks them. The media offered money for interviews. Brands offered free products. And someone even sent a year's supply of fresh bread to the shelter. Anonymous. Of course. Mia sat in her room, overwhelmed. She didn't want fame. She didn't want pity. She only wanted to get back on her feet. That afternoon, she went to see Helen. I don't want to be a headline, Mia whispered. Then don't, Helen said. Let them talk. You focus on your life, your girls, your healing. Use this attention, not as a spotlight, but as a bridge. Mia nodded. She took a deep breath and decided she would not run from this moment. She would use it. She began volunteering at the shelter. She cleaned bathrooms, folded laundry, helped cook meals. She told her story quietly to women who felt forgotten. She showed them it was okay to be broken. That healing didn't mean pretending you were never hurt. Weeks passed. One day, Claire brought a surprise. "You have a job interview tomorrow," she said, smiling. "Me? Really?" Mia asked. "Yes, customer service position. Part-time for now. But it's something. And it's from someone who saw your story and said, I want to give her a shot." Mia couldn't believe it. She bought a second-hand blouse and wore it like armor. Her girls drew pictures and tucked them in her bag for good luck. The interview went well. The manager, a kind woman named Jana, offered her the job on the spot. "You've been through the fire," Jana said. "I believe people who've struggled often work harder. They understand patience, kindness, and that's what we need here." Mia left the office smiling for the first time in months. That night, she wrote a thank you note. Not to the internet, not to the donors, but to Keanu. She still didn't know where to send it. But life had one more surprise for her. Because just as things were starting to settle, a black car pulled up to the shelter gate. A man stepped out, and he wasn't alone. Walking beside him was someone from Keanu's past. Someone who knew Mia's pain in a way that would soon change everything again. The woman with the same scarred black car door opened slowly. Keanu stepped out first, dressed simple as always, with calm eyes and a quiet smile. But it wasn't him that caught Mia's attention this time. It was the woman beside him. Tall, graceful, with warm brown eyes and a soft scarf wrapped around her shoulders. She looked elegant, but not distant, familiar somehow. She smiled gently at Mia as if they had known each other in another life. "This is Elena," Keanu said. "She's someone who helped me through a hard time, and she asked to meet you." Mia blinked. "Me?" Elena stepped forward. "You remind me of myself," she said quietly. "Many years ago, I was in your place. No food, no job. My daughter was just a baby. No one believed in me until one person did." Mia listened closely. Something about Elena's voice was calming, like waves gently hitting the shore. "And now," Elena said, "I try to be that person for someone else. Today, that someone is you." Keanu and Elena sat down with Mia at a small table in the garden. Behind the shelter, the sunlight danced through the leaves above them. Lily and Zoe played nearby with other children, their laughter echoing. Elena told her story slowly. She had been a single mother too, abandoned, hurt, broke, but she worked her way back, first as a cleaner, then as a bookkeeper. Then, somehow, she opened a small business, a flower shop that grew into a chain. "Money doesn't fix everything," she said, "but belief does, and when someone believes in you, you start believing in yourself." Keanu nodded. "That's what I've learned too. Life hits you hard, but people, the right people, they lift you back up." Elena reached into her purse and placed a small envelope in front of Mia. Mia looked at it, confused. "What is this?" "It's not charity," Elena said softly. "It's a seed. Inside is a check, not huge, but enough to start something. A course, a home, or even a small cart if you want to sell something. It's yours to decide." Mia's hands trembled. I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Elena whispered. "Not to me. To yourself." Tears filled Mia's eyes. The weight of months, no, years of struggle came flooding back. But this time, the tears weren't just from pain. They were from hope. She nodded. The next morning, Mia didn't sleep in. She got up early, dressed the girls, and made her way to the local adult education center. She used the money to enroll in a short course, digital marketing, something she had always dreamed of learning. "I've always loved writing," she told the teacher, "but I never had the tools." The teacher smiled. "Well, now you do." Meanwhile, her story was still making quiet waves online. People were not just talking about Keanu anymore, they were talking about Mia, about how she didn't give up, about how she used kindness as a ladder to climb out of the dark. One woman from across the country even messaged the shelter. "I watched Mia's interview and decided not to give up today. Please tell her that." Mia read the message late one night and broke down crying. Not because of sadness, but because she finally understood something. Her story mattered. And her daughters, they were watching her rise. But just when she thought things were finally turning for the better, news came that shook her again. Claire rushed in with a worried face. "Keanu's in trouble," she said. Mia stood still. "What do you mean?" Claire held out her phone. Headlines flashed across the screen. Actor Keanu Reeves accused of manipulating stories for publicity was the poor mother event. Staged. Mia felt her heart sink. The very kindness that had saved her life was now being turned into something ugly. And this time, Mia knew she couldn't stay silent. Her voice shook the room. The next morning, Mia stood in front of the small mirror near her bed at the shelter. Her hands were shaking. Zoe had helped braid her hair. Lily had drawn a tiny heart on a piece of paper and slipped it into Mia's pocket. Both girls knew something important was happening. They didn't understand the words on the news, but they felt their mother's silence. Mia had spent the night reading the articles. Keanu Reeves under fire. Is the kindness campaign just another Hollywood stunt? Sources claim woman from viral video was paid actress. Every word cut like glass. It wasn't just lies about Keanu. It was lies about her. Her pain, her daughters, their hunger. Claire gently touched her shoulder. "You don't have to do this." But Mia nodded. "I do." By noon, she stood in front of a group of reporters gathered at a small community center. The shelter had allowed them to use the space. Claire stood beside her. Keanu hadn't said anything publicly yet. He'd gone quiet. The cameras flashed. One reporter shouted, "Did he pay you to pretend to be poor?" Mia's voice cracked at first, but she raised the microphone to her mouth and spoke clearly. "I was poor," she said. "I didn't have to pretend." The room fell quiet. When Keanu Reeves gave us bread that day, he didn't know anyone was watching. He didn't have a camera. He didn't ask for a video. He didn't tell me who he was. He just gave. A few cameras lowered. "And yes," she continued, "I was broken. I didn't think anyone saw me anymore. People walked past me like I didn't exist. But he didn't." Mia took a deep breath. "I didn't ask for fame. I didn't want it. All I wanted was to feed my daughters, and he helped me do that." Then he left, quietly, without asking for anything in return. She paused. This world has a habit of making people suspicious of good things. We think kindness must be fake. We think love has a price, but not everything is a trick. Sometimes people are just good. The room stayed silent. "You don't have to believe me," Mia said, her voice soft now. "But I know who I am, and I know what he did for me, for my daughters. And no article, no headline will take that away." After a few seconds, someone clapped. Then another. And slowly, the room filled with quiet applause. Not loud or dramatic, just respectful. That night, the press conference went viral. But this time, the comments were different. You can hear the truth in her voice. "I believe her, and I believe in him. We need more stories like this. We need more people like them." Keanu finally broke his silence with a short post. "I didn't do it for attention. I did it because she reminded me of someone I once loved, and because her daughters deserve a world that sees them." The trolls faded. And then, something beautiful happened. An organization that watched the story reached out to Mia. It was a startup incubator designed for women who had been through poverty and wanted to build something new. "You have a powerful voice," the woman on the call said, "and we think your story can help many. We'd like to help you start your own project." Mia blinked. "What kind of project?" "A place where mothers like you can learn skills, a place to eat, to rest, and maybe even to heal." Mia looked at her daughters. She smiled. And for the first time, she said the words out loud. "Yes, I'm ready." Bread, bricks, and a new beginning. 3 months passed. The leaves had begun to fall in soft golden spirals round the shelter courtyard. Mia walked slowly down the path, holding Lily's hand while Zoe skipped ahead. They no longer lived at the shelter. They had moved into a small but clean apartment not far away. It had 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen, and a window that let in the sun every morning. But something bigger was happening. Next to the shelter, construction had begun on a new building. It wasn't tall or shiny. It was humble. Soft yellow walls, wide steps, a garden out front, and at the top of the entrance, A sign was being hung up by the volunteers, the bread house. It was Mia's idea. A space where struggling mothers could come and learn. Not just skills but confidence. Where children could play while their moms took short courses in writing, digital skills, or even simple cooking classes. A place to rest, to breathe, to begin again. Keanu had visited quietly during the first week of construction. He didn't speak to the press. He didn't take pictures. He helped mix paint, sweep floors, and once even fixed a broken chair with his own tools. When Mia thanked him again, he only smiled and said, "You did this. I just showed up." One of the women from the startup incubator helped Mia set up a website and a donation page. Not to beg but to build. The site went viral. People from all over the world sent messages. This story made me hug my daughter tighter. I was going to quit school, but now I won't. This reminds me that good people still exist. And quietly, donations came in. One woman from Australia donated $500 and wrote, "For the bread I never had as a child." A man from Kenya donated $30 and said, "I was raised by a single mom too. I want this place to grow." On the opening day of the bread house, Mia stood at the front door in a simple white blouse and jeans. Zoe handed out paper flowers. Lily wore a homemade ribbon in her hair. Claire stood nearby, holding back tears. Helen from the shelter gave a short speech about resilience. And when it came time for Mia to speak, she held the mic close and looked at the crowd gathered on the lawn. "This isn't a place built from money," she said quietly. "It's built from pain and courage and bread. Bread that was once just a small act of kindness, and now it's become something bigger." She smiled at Keanu, who stood near the back, hidden behind sunglasses and a soft smile. "I used to think my life was too small to matter, but then I learned something. Sometimes the smallest lives carry the biggest light." After the applause, the doors opened. The smell of warm bread freshly baked by one of the women in the kitchen filled the air. Children laughed, women hugged, and someone began to sing. And that night, when the lights were off and the building stood quiet, Mia walked through the halls alone. She stopped by the kitchen window and saw a tray of leftover bread on the counter. She smiled. She took one piece, broke it in half, and left the rest for someone else. Because now she understood what Keanu meant that first day. Kindness doesn't end when you receive it. It begins again when you give it away.